And good morning. It is 19 minutes after 8 o'clock, and joining us in studio this morning. Is this the limit? 2 together at one time that we're allowed to have as far as county commissioners in a room? Is that, I know like you guys aren't supposed to hang out outside the chambers a lot together, but like you can come in 2s, right?
Well, we can, as long as we don't have a quorum, that's works,
the only rule here.
Yeah,
that's
3.
There you go. That's the thing.
Yeah.
But we have, of course, County Commissioners Will Cavin and Jeff Bilberry join us this morning. Morning, gentlemen.
Well, good morning, Mike.
I know there was a rule because we actually talked about it one time when I was like, yeah, bring the whole commission. I was like, well, we can't do that.
Yeah. Well, if we're in public and we're on the radio and stuff like that, and as long as we're not making any decisions.
As long as we can keep an eye on you guys, we're good to go.
So you got us on video. I think
everything's above board there.
Yeah,
so
that's
good
exactly
deal.
Right.
Well, how are you guys doing this morning? How's life treating? How's the county faring? I know with the weather and everything, what's the reports and stuff? Do you guys, everybody make it okay that from the reports and stuff you heard?
I think everything's good. I know Commissioner Bilberry, he's out. He lives actually down in the Elida area of Chaves County, and I know with this cold weather, freezing pipes and all that stuff that you're having to deal with. But
of course, farm and ranchers, they're usually pretty handy when it comes to this kind of stuff. It's us dumb city folk that don't know no better.
There's a few guys breaking ice this morning. I
hope they better be right. So no, everything's gone really pretty good, and it's nice to get the moisture we got. At least
wish you got a little more, but it is what it is.
Yeah, well, there's that fine. It's kind of the Goldilocks still. At least we didn't have Goliath. But we did get some moisture.
Be careful what you wish for. Yeah.
No, that's exactly right.
Absolutely.
So everything's good, and I think the schools took the day off yesterday, and of course they have an in-service going on today.
Yes, so kids enjoying another sort of snow day with the patches that are still out there.
Yeah, you go out there and maybe slide around on some of the ice.
That's right.
In the shadowed areas. So. But anyway, we just got through having breakfast with Jim Stovall and some of the guys from the BLM and working on some things that we're always having to stay on top of some of this stuff with our lands. I mean, I don't know how many people know that Chaves County is a little over 6,000 square miles. Mm-hmm. We're a large county.
Absolutely. In land, we definitely are. We got a lot of acreage to cover. And any other time, you really, and it's because of the people. It's all about, I imagine some of these city counties that have their whole population in, a couple hundred square miles there. It's a little easier logistically than having 1/10 of that spread over a couple thousand square miles of space here.
Well, you just have agriculture and oil and dairy and farming and ranching, all of it together. Plus, Roswell being right in the middle of in the county, you have city dwellers and country dwellers. You have it all. There's a lot to deal with.
Sure, and we have a unique scenario. Just we as a city and a county here because we're a mecca for southeast New Mexico.
Exactly.
People from farther south, Hobbs, Lee, Eddy counties and things, they're coming here for their big city time and things like that.
Yeah.
And needs like that. So we are a small community, but we're big enough where we serve other smaller communities in Southeast. So we're the mecca just by default,
Right. We're the closest thing, but you take off, go over to Lubbock or Midland or some of these other places.
Yeah, that's our mecca.
That's ours.
Where we go.
So,
they all come here and then we go there.
Yeah. Well, and so we had breakfast with those guys. We've got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
I'm headed up to Santa Fe this afternoon. We've got a New Mexico County's Board of Directors meeting, kind of talking about legislative stuff. And I know last time I was in with you with
we talked a lot about airport and stuff then,
former Senator Jennings, and I tell you what, Mike, one of the big things that we talked about then that I really think is going to come to fruition is the 4 lanes to Texas state line on 380.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
I'm not going to lie. That's been a long time coming.
Long time.
I'm sure every single person, and that's all of us at some point or another, have driven that way. And every single one of us to a person said, why isn't this 4 lanes? And now somebody's listening to us?
Well, our legislators, Candy and Greg and Phelps and Stu Engel and Cliff Pirtle, I mean, they're all working in unison with.
And they've been fighting for years for that. In all fairness, we got to give them credit. This isn't new to them either. They've been fighting that fight for a long time.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So this deal, that highway 4 lanes there is a bipartisan deal. This is a Republican and Democrat thing, and that's what makes it a good deal.
That's how it's getting on the radar.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
I mean, you got on some of these things, you got to work together. I mean, there's some things that we don't agree with some of our leaders in local and state, but we need to get to the table and work together.
Can I since we're talking, this roads and I just want to ask a philosophical question a little bit and. Now obviously with this legislative session and the state's been saying we got a little money to spend this time and that can be a very dangerous thing when they turn them loose with that. But is it really the mindset? Because obviously when we think Republicans, conservatives, things like that, they tend to lean towards let's put some money away for the rainy day, especially with oil and gas money. That's a volatile thing that's never consistent, and so you have that side that's always been more conservative, but. We know New Mexico, it's a liberal state. And anytime they get money, it turns into a gimme, gimme, gimme moment. Obviously, you guys don't like playing that game, but do you have to play it by default sometimes? Just because, as a county commission, you're looking out for Chaves County, and if the way of the world is gimme, 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 then guess what? You guys got to play that too. I mean, is that a lot of that going on sometimes?
Well, I would say that does happen on a normal basis.
Yeah.
But we're not in normal times right now.
That's true.
Right. And when the federal government is sending money out into our state, into our counties and municipalities to spend, you don't get to tuck that stuff away. You have to spend it, and so the infrastructure deal that they passed out in Washington D.C.
Sure.
Well, there's a reason for that. So your roads, your airports,
sure. I mean, and that's where this money for 380 is going to be coming out of.
Right.
Yes,
right.
Okay.
The good thing about it is that before all that happened, the governor had already appropriated funds for us to do passing lanes on 380, which is great. But since we have this kind of money now, let's get it done and do
really
4 lanes and do it right.
Good.
Passing lanes are great, but 4 lanes are a heck of a lot safer and a better scenario for that road.
The tea leaves that you guys are reading right now, does it look like it's going to get some momentum and we might get through with this session?
Well, I'm thinking so because I'm watching because Candy and Greg and them they've got bills that are moving forward out of their committees and like I said, it's a bipartisan deal. I mean,
Good.
You don't have anybody sitting on the edge going, I don't know about that or anything. I think it's a
and in this day and age, a bipartisan thing's kind of like a unicorn nowadays. So so that does bode very well. That like saying, okay, both sides can see the need. That bodes well for saying, you know what, that they're gonna work together to get this one knocked out.
Right, and that's exactly it right there.
Good,
so
good.
It's nice to see that can still happen.
It is. And after where we've been so diversive and combative, out of necessity, it seems like over this last 3 years, the fact that we're like, oh yeah, we're all on the same team at the end of the day here. We forgot that sometimes,
I agree.
and so maybe just maybe this is the floodgates to maybe a crack in the armor to see if they can get them to talk on some other issues too.
Yeah, you would hope that would be the case, and so right now some of the things that we're working on that gives us some real concern. I mean, there's a House bill that in conversations over the last couple of days doesn't sound like it's going to go anywhere, but we were really concerned about House Bill 36, which was going to be a deal that was going to give kind of change the wording for the Resource and Mineral Secretary and a couple of these other entities to be able to go out and acquire land and minerals and water rights and things like that. And I mean that's a definite concern for us. I mean, because if you look at the state of New Mexico, and when you start talking about water, water is for our ranchers and farmers.
And you're just taking out the private sector when you go to put that kind of effort to put the government in direct competition with the private.
Yeah, and that's a problem, and that's a problem that and that's if you compile that with just the other practices of the state, and what I mean by that is we are so, I mean, they talk we're pro-business, but the actions that happen don't reflect that, and this can be more of that is what it potentially sounds like.
Right. Well, and that's part of our concern, and I know Jeff and I were with you about a year ago, talking about the 30 by 30 plan that has come out of Washington, which they've rebranded as the America the Beautiful, which they're wanting to take up 30% of the land and 30% of the water to conserve for the future on climate change stuff and everything. And really and truly, 30 by 30 is what they're telling you right now, but what their real goal is 50 by 50, and that's land and water stuff. And so Bill Williams and I are fixing to head out to Washington, D.C. Next week for our NACO legislative conference, and we've got a couple of resolutions to push through our national organization to so Waters of the U.S., WOTUS, I don't know how often you've heard that, but, the federal government wants to take control of and create these it's all about control, Mike, is what it is. And so instead of having your state and local control over things like this, the federal government wants to come in and kind of make these rules up. And, during the 4 years of the Trump administration, they pulled some of that back and put that back to local control. But now you have a new administration where
it's getting ripped up again.
They're going back to where they were.
And this is the part where American public gets, because we get juggled around back and forth with this every time there's an administration change here.
Right.
And but you're right, because this is the argument we had, back during the Obama administration when they're coming in and danger listing everything with a heartbeat out here. We had to fight the fight. It's like people in Washington, D.C. that have never seen this land, don't know anything about this land, don't know how it works or operates, are calling the shots, rather than the people that chew the dirt, that live here, that work in this dirt, that live in it, that play in this dirt, that do everything in this dirt. Those are the people that are probably better stewards of the dirt. Why are we telling those people that don't know anything other than what they read on a computer screen how to? And that's the problem here. They just read something and then think, oh, it's be like this, and then you get here and it's like, no, that's none of that stuff. And they're making decisions on assumptions and opinions that they have no real knowledge of what's going on here, and that's the kind of the scary part too. Not the fact that it's just government control, but government control that's uneducated on making good decisions for this area.
Well, one of the deals that's come out is they make all of us who are, just as you said, live in the dirt and work in the dirt, play in the dirt here.
Yeah.
They make us out that we're not good stewards of the land.
Yeah.
That we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm like, oh yeah,
yeah.
But that's the intent.
And that's where it's dangerous and scary.
Tell the world that we're not good stewards of the land.
Yeah. And that's what's dangerous and scary. And that's the debate you're hearing right now. And so that's when you see those political ads on tell your senators to stop this and that. And all that is they're trying to sway you. But at the end of the day, the people that do this for a living every single day are better stewards of everything. And I tell you, even like back with the prairie chickens and the sand dune lizards, our oil and gas companies, their people live here too. They don't want to destroy and all the things that they accuse the oil industry of doing to the land. Have those things happened in the past? I'm sure they have. It's humanity. But they work hand in hand with the private sector, with the government, with the EPA and all the various agencies that are out there to not only comply but generally go above and beyond some of the minimal standards that the government puts on them as far as
if you went
that
back
kind of
50
stuff.
years, I mean, from 50 years ago to today, we've done a lot better job.
Yeah.
And we always need to do a better job, but you're correct. I mean, the people that are here need to be the ones that are making those decisions.
Absolutely, and that's the point. And that's the point we've been making. And now we've got administration again that doesn't see eye to eye on that. So here we go again with the fights in the round.
You get special interest groups that have more voice than we do.
Sure, and they don't. And the people that are running that again have never probably set foot in southeast New Mexico. They read an internet story about one thing that happened one place, and they just assume that's everything. And now they're going scorched earth on us. Yeah.
Well, and Mike, that word control is the key word to use here, and you got to have more government control because us folks out here don't know what we're doing, and they're
Are we just dumb hicks? Is that kind of the mindset?
But that's not the way our forefathers set it up.
right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They set it up for us on the ground to do our business.
I hear a lot of the people by the people in many of the things that the literature they wrote and the documentation that we use to guide our nation today. That those words and things are in there quite a bit, and there's a reason for that. And,
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and part of the one of the tools coming out of that toolbox, and you talked about it a little bit. We had the battle over the lesser prairie chicken and the sand dune lizard and stuff, and I mean now you've got a butterfly out there and a jumping mouse and the chipmunk and some of these other things, and so those are all things that are being used to take control.
It's a playbook. It's literally a playbook, and they're taking it from the play. It's the same one they used 10 years ago, whenever and all this was going around the first time. And they heard the same. Okay, you defeat the sand dune lizard. What's next on the list?
Right.
And that's what they're doing, and that's what you're talking about. The butterfly, whatever these animals are, the something minnow or whatever.
Silver minnow, the spotted owl.
This is the playbook. This is what. And so you defeat one of these. And they're just going to go to the next one, because and they got nothing but time and money and resources, so they're not going away with this.
They got a heck of a printing press out there, all I can tell you.
But once you talk about defeated, really they nothing was defeated. A lot of people had to coordinate or collaborate to get past this and give up something to get what both sides
resolved is or whatever.
But that's the plan. If you can. What is the death of 1,000 cuts?
Yeah,
is that
exactly.
Well, and that's how, and this is where people have been screaming from the rooftops. You're not going to lose your freedom in one big foul swoop. It's just not. They're not going to be some army that comes through and says you're oppressed. That's not how it's going to happen. It's going to be nickel and diming you. It's stuff like making you wear a mask in places that have no business really need to wear a mask. It's doing stuff like this, But what it impacts. But the thing you're doing is going to impact 1/10 of 1% of population. That we've got to blow up scorched earth because of that 1/10 of a 1%. No, let's be a little commonsensical here and say let's appease the 1/10, but not throw the baby out with the bathwater on the rest of it here. But that's not how they want us to think and deal, and that's how they take away the freedoms.
Well, and there are thousands. There's your playbook you're talking about. Mm-hmm. There's thousands of species out there that they're just waiting to kind of pick the next one out.
Absolutely.
And that's the playbook right there.
And that's where we as a public, we got to not be naive about this stuff. You got to be aware of it. You got to and I'll say this, it's elections coming up. This is why you got to be informed and things, because if you just kind of don't pay attention to this stuff, you unintentionally could be, helping to keep this kind of activity going. So
if I had one message for everybody's listening today, 2022 is probably the most pivotal election that this country's ever had. Mm-hmm. Our state, educate yourself on the people that are running. Educate yourself on what's going on. Don't step back and say your vote doesn't count, because it is exactly what counts. And if you talk about voter fraud, which may open the hole, if everyone will get out and vote, there will be no voter fraud.
Sure, you're right. You're absolutely right.
Well, Jeff used the key word there also, is get educated. Don't you stick your head in the sand and say, "Oh, nothing I can do about it." get out there and get yourself educated.
And get real educated.
Yeah,
Don't go on
find
Facebook.
someone to support.
Yeah, don't go on Facebook, find 12 means that agree with you and say, that's what I thought, and then move on with your day. No. Challenge some of that stuff. Go to somewhere other than social media to learn news and learn information. Do your, when people share links and articles, do your digging. Read those articles, and then read where they came from. Is it something legitimate, or is it from some other clown in another basement somewhere who looks legitimate? It's really easy to make a website look pretty sharp nowadays. Odds are, though, that there's a guy wearing plastic pants in a basement that's got nothing better to do while they doing that kind of stuff. And he has no clue on what he's actually talking about.
Well, and so we've really got to a point where we've gotten and created a really good relationship with the BLM. So we have good dialogue and conversation there, and we're in a good place with them. But then all of a sudden we show up with the Forest Service, and a lot of people don't realize that we have forest in Chaves County, but once again, we're
a diverse county.
We're a pretty diverse
We got a lot of
county.
acreage, and there's a little bit. Hence the reason after, again, another political fiasco, we're going to have pretty much all 3 congressional districts in our county.
We're not going to get started.
We have a seat at the table.
But so right now we've got the Forest Service has come out with this new plan that they've supposedly been working on since 2015, but now all of a sudden, new administration, they're going to lay this deal out on the table that's going to affect Lincoln, Otero, Eddy County, and Chaves County. And one of their big deals that they want to do, these entities, are create these like wilderness areas. Okay, and so when you get those like wilderness areas created, well, that's an act of Congress, and so getting it off the books is not happening anytime soon. But they're wanting to take areas that you're like going, are you kidding me? That you're wanting to make this a like wilderness area? You've got tanks and power lines and everything else that are there. It ain't like wilderness. I'm just going to tell you right now.
Okay, well then let's go to D.C. and we'll make the mall like wilderness.
And you have a lot of private land. You got people that other industries in there too, and there's it's like there's just a blank sheet of paper. We're just going to take it off.
Sure. Well, and again, that's the cookie cutter mindset, and it's checking boxes and making numbers on their end, but they don't realize the real impact of what those box checking's doing and the balance that, and that's just it. And people that live out here know it's all the balance, man. You got to have a little of this and a little of that, and it all works. If you start going in there meddling with this stuff and start playing God, in essence, then you're throwing the balance in works here. The government does not know what's best from you all the time.
Right.
And generally, in factors of this area, you know a heck of a lot more than they do about this stuff.
Yeah, and the thing is that you create those like wilderness areas and you do stuff like that. People have water rights and things that are out in that, and now all of a sudden you've put them in a situation where they don't have those water rights anymore, or they can't access them like they should be able to, and it's just wording. Okay, they want us just to cooperate with them.
Okay.
Instead of coordinate. And you look at the NEPA, the laws that local government is supposed to be coordinated with.
Okay.
Put us at the table and let's have that conversation. Don't just show up with a plan and expect us to cooperate with you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because
exactly.
it affects our tax base. It affects everything that we do.
Well, that's the problem here. But it's that mindset of we know what's best, and that's what we're fighting here on this.
It's not that we have forced and BLM in our county. It's they have forced and BLM in our county.
Right.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's really important that a lot of our counties don't have here in the state of New Mexico and around the West.
Yeah.
They don't have their plans in place. And so the government ends up taking advantage of that because you don't have those plans in place. And so that's one of the things of being educated, and the message that we try to get out to everybody is get that stuff on the books so that when they do come in, you can say, "Oh, wait a second, that's not falling within our county."
It is
plans.
in our comprehensive plan that they have to coordinate with us, and it is actually part of the statute among how they operate that they're supposed to.
Sure. I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Where's the state at here? I mean, is there Is there any state level aid coming to our defense on this, or are they just lockstep with the federal government right now?
Well, I would tell you, Mike, that here in the state of New Mexico, the government put out their 30-30 plan, and then the governor came out with her executive order in lockstep with the 30-30 plan.
Gotcha.
And so, talking about House Bill 36, but the other thing that and I don't think it's getting out of the House, but the other thing that they were planning on doing was putting on the ballot a $50 million bond that they were going to call the Land of Enchantment bond, which takes you back to that bill that $50 million was going to be broken up into 6 entities. The Game and Fish was going to get like $2.5 million. The resource and energy minerals, they were going to get $12.5 million of that.
Okay.
And so into the conversations with some of the heads of these secretaries, it's like, well, what are you going to do with that money if this bond passes and you have access to that? And now you've been given the ability, because this House bill has passed, to go out and acquire. I mean, that's what it all comes down to is acquisitions. And, we just had a Game and Fish department that just bought a fairly good-sized ranch, the Pimpkin Ranch. And, they worked through an NGO, bought the land, and so they've created more habitat. Their deal is they created more habitat for the lesser prairie chicken and just that conservation.
Like these lands they're buying up is it the state selling it to them? Is it private?
Well, that was a private entity that owned it, but they sold it to the New Mexico Game and Fish Department.
Yeah. So and I get it, money talks.
Exactly. But what are we selling or sold for?
Yeah, right. But if we're outbidding our own,
but they come in direct competition with private. That's what I was talking about a while ago. Yeah. That was the piece of property I was talking about.
I mean, and it's really hard to ask someone to say, hey, take a price cut to sell to the other guy versus the federal government when it's. And I'm guessing probably a major significant difference in what the private is going to willing to buy that land for, which is versus what the government's going to give you.
But this bond that Will's talking about, what you're basically doing, if it passes, the citizens of the state of New Mexico are paying to have the state come in and buy
away
land. And the folks that own the land, they're going to be taxed for someone to come buy their land.
Right.
So as far as is it resistance or is this bill getting a lot of good traction or for their end?
I don't know whether anybody really knows what it means.
Kind of resistance
when you look at the ballot and you go to reading those bonds and you read through all of it.
The lawyers did a good job with muddying up to make it confusing, kind of thing.
Well, so the good thing about it, Mike, is that this is a 30-day session. And so I don't think this House Bill 36 is going to get out of committees to get to the floor to vote on.
But you think it'll come back next year?
Yeah. Well, these deals don't ever go away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be back next year. And that's so back to $12.5 million to the Department of Resources, Minerals, and everything. I mean, so that's where you start talking about buying up water rights and things like that. And those are precious resources that we have.
And let's face it, all the things we're talking about here, they're muddy enough to where most people get glassy-eyed when you talk about it. Water rights, any kind of rights, grazing rights, but just land. And most the public is like, whatever, with land and stuff. But this is where, okay, I get it. You don't understand the ins and outs of water rights and land rights and what you can do on the property and what you can't do on the property. I get that. But at the same time, let me ask you this. Do you want the government telling you what to do with all that? Or do you want the people that live here, serve here, work here, play here, that appreciate the land in which they live their lives on, understand what's better? And that's, okay, maybe you don't have to know the X's and outs and ins and O's, but who do you trust making those kinds of decisions? The people that do it or the federal government? And that's the big question.
Well, and so right now, I mean, if you look at the stuff that's going on in Canada with the truck drivers, and you're going to see a lot of that here, but unfortunately, people that are in these metropolitan areas, these big cities, they just go to the grocery store and get their stuff. Okay, they just think that stuff just magically shows up.
Sure.
And the elves come out and restock everything, and it just shows up at the back door.
They live in
and
a
all that
shoe
other
or
stuff.
something. Yeah, I guess
Right,
those elves.
right. And so there's not that in your face type deal that says, you show up and those shelves aren't stocked and you don't have your necessities.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden you go, well, where did it all go? Well, the truck drivers got a little angry.
Yeah.
And so they're not delivering the stuff. And so now you have more of an appreciation for those truck drivers.
Sure.
And those truck drivers aren't going to be driving around in electric in big electric semi trucks.
Sure.
I mean,
they got the tools that they like to do the job and can do the job. Stop changing their tools out.
right.
Let them do the job.
And California is really, really bad. And I know Jeff.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, to take that back about 2 steps. I mean, for something for the truck drivers to haul, when you've got guys growing the beef and growing the corn and pumping the oil and digging the holes in the ground, giving them something to haul.
Absolutely.
Right.
And when you can set in these city dwellings or whatever and think, well, that's an agriculture issue or that's an oil and gas issue. That's not going to affect me.
Yeah.
Well, when you went down to get your groceries, yes,
You consume said products? Yes.
It does affect you.
Absolutely. Oh, by the way, I don't drive a car. I don't use do you use a pocket comb? Do you got what's that
Exactly.
plastic on your microwave there?
Well,
What's
you
that?
might take a bus.
Trust
Your bus
me,
ticket
if
just
you,
went up.
If you own anything plastic,
Right.
you guess what? Oil and gas is contributing to your life right now.
It is.
That's exactly right. So, anyway, so those are a bunch of the big things that we have going on. We're going to have a big summit in Nebraska on this. I mean, once again, it's all about educating people
Sure.
and making sure people really understand what's going on. I mean, it's really a beautiful thing to sell the America the Beautiful and Land of Enchantment stuff and put these brands on there, but people really need to understand what the end game is here.
Sure.
And so our hunters, fishermen, all these guys, they're all thinking that this is really great, but when they're not able to go out to their unit to hunt on because it's considered like wilderness,
Protected land, yeah.
right?
Protected.
And
Protected creatures, yeah.
and then your WOTA stuff, your favorite fishing hole, all of a sudden is you don't have access to that fishing hole.
Yeah.
People need to make sure that they're aware of and not just listening to what they're being told.
And people don't have to go very far to realize that impact. They can go just right out here, right outside of town to this wilderness area out here, and they're limited on what they can do there.
Well, and I would even offer this too. And we've seen this in past history in our area, where they've had the control, and you saw what they did with it. I'll point to the owls and they're talking about and then all of a sudden we got bad fires and populations of owls because guess what? They protected an area, did nothing to it, and now the area which they speak of is not good for the owls and things because there's too much overgrowth. Now there's fires, and we need us to go and maintain the yard, so to speak, to get that done. But the federal government doesn't realize or care that kind of stuff. They're like, oh, protect it and let it. And I don't know if they've been watching Discovery TV and watching those after people leave kind of thing, and they want to make it do that. But we can't be here and have that happen at the same time. So,
Right.
I get protecting Earth, but I want to be on it. So, so leaving their control of that things are the kind of things you're going to see. Do you want that happening in your backyard? And that's what we're talking about here.
Right.
Let the people that live here do what they do to take care of it because they know better than the people that don't live here.
Yeah, if you're not doing some harvesting and not cleaning up the fuel that gives those fires the opportunity to
Yeah.
to run.
And then they're like, well, why are the owls hanging at Walmart? Because they can't hang out in the forest because you just muddied up their hunting ground so they can't see or hunt. So now they're hanging at Walmart waiting for you to drop popcorn on the ground.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. So
we're out of time here, but I want to give you guys last word or anything we want to make sure we talk about here.
Everybody get out and vote. Educate yourself.
Yeah.
Do your due diligence. I can't stress that enough.
Well, let me just say, and unfortunately, Bill and I are going to be in Washington D.C., but come Saturday the 12th, a week from this Saturday, they're going to have groundbreaking for the Ascent project
Yes.
out there at the Air Center. And
Yeah.
I mean, that deal is going to be huge for the city of Roswell, Chaves County, and southeastern New Mexico, and the state of New Mexico.
Yep.
And it's a really big deal. And I mean, that deal is happening because of the work that has been done in a bipartisan fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Republicans and Democrats seeing the opportunity out there. I mean, Candy Azell, Greg Nybert, Senator Jennings. I mean, everybody has got a piece of the pie in getting that deal done,
Yeah.
and that's going to be a really big deal.
And it's going to benefit all of us.
It's going to benefit all of us,
Yep.
and so I'm just I'm glad we finally got to this
Yep.
point, and
I think, and that's proof. If we all sit down and talk talk about our issues and try to meet the needs of all that while at the same time getting done, that's what can happen here. And it sounds like that was that collaborative effort, and that's where it goes. And it's time to get back to that versus what we're seeing other places.
put your political parties to the side and
Yeah.
just get it done, solve the problems, and grow.
We all want to be happy. We all want to have a great, successful area. We just all don't agree on how to get that done.
Right.
And if we can keep it back to those issues and not all the ancillary other things that they try to crowbar into this and make it an issue out of when it's really not at the end of the day, then we'd be a lot better off here. But we, the community, like Jeff was saying, go out and vote, but educate yourself. That's the thing, is understand they are pulling rope-a-dopes, they're pulling, whatever you want it, the term you want to call it. There are shenanigans going on, and it will go unchecked if you just let it happen.
Exactly.
You need to call out the people, and to be honest, that's all it sometimes needs to be. It's just they're just, let's see if anybody notices, and they don't. But as soon as someone raises a flag, they're like, all right, we'll back off on that. But that's just it's almost like taking shots at the wire to see what's going to trip,
Well, it's just throwing that stuff on the wall and seeing what's going to slide down and what's going to stay up there. And so
absolutely.
it's unfortunate.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate
Mike.
appreciate the visit. Appreciate what you do for Eddy County, Chaves
Well,
County.
we'll
I got
help
to
them
talk
too.
even Eddy
We'll
County
help
too.
them
You
too.
helped them out. So
There's some good guys down there.
Yeah, they are.
here in Chaves County
Yeah.
and in our community, and we anytime we can, you guys want to come on and shoot the breeze, love to have you.
All right, sounds great.
All right, safe
Mike,
travels
appreciate
too.
you.
Thank you.